And then also, if you're someone who is more clear on your purpose and really just wants that support and to have the more clear path laid out of how you can take this purpose and turn it into an actual business, I have another guide that is that 6-part process that you mentioned, Luisa, that I guide my clients through in my program. And so you can go to indigomarigold.com/path and it'll give you that balanced approach.
Welcome to Flying Upstream, the podcast where we uncover the choices, practices, and wisdom that defy mainstream conventions. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Luisa. And together we're here to illuminate the alternative paths that have shaped human experiences through the ages. In each episode, we'll examine ways to move beyond societal norms. We're passionate about how timeless wisdom and unique lifestyle choices can foster healthier, sustainable, and enriching lives.
Join us as we navigate, challenge, and celebrate the beauty and insight of walking the road less traveled. If you've ever felt like you're flying north for the winter while everyone else is flying south, you've found your flock.
Flying Upstream, the podcast that embraces the beauty of unconventional paths and inspires us all to live authentically. We are your hosts, Kristen and Luisa, and today we have an exciting episode featuring incredible guest who is ready to share her unique journey and insights with us.
That's right. Today we have Indigo Marigold. She is a heart-led business coach for healing service providers who are ready to live their purpose full-time. She's the founder of Prosperous with a Purpose, a 4-month coaching journey where she helps spiritual entrepreneurs build the core foundations of a business that thrives on you being yourself, following your intuition, and living the life that you want to live. She also hosts the Safe to Shine podcast, a podcast teaching personal branding and business foundations in a meaningful, magical, yet practical way, showing you that when you master these skills and shine your truest self, you create unwavering abundance and security from within. Her mission is to cultivate a world where everyone feels safe to shine and spends their days doing what lights them up.
Yay! Thank you guys
Welcome.
for having me.
Welcome, Indigo.
Thank you.
Of
Grateful
course,
to be here.
we are so glad to have you here. So, one of the ways that we connected was through our spirituality. I found that a lot of what you do is very tied with spirituality, and Kristen and I are both on a journey, different journeys, but they have led us to the same place. It kind of has a little bit to do with what you do too. We mentioned that you have a unique approach to blending practical business skills with your spiritual practices. And I would love for you to share a little bit about that, how you developed your 6-step process and what it entails.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, so the way that this all developed was it started with me working a corporate job and just going down the more classic path. I went to college, I studied engineering, and I just wanted to be so much more creative, and I really wanted to make a positive impact in the world and really see the tangible impact that I was making. And when I was interviewing for jobs, I was just told so many messages like, you're not supposed to like your job. If you want to make any money, you got to get rid of your mindset of wanting to make a positive impact, like just crazy things that people straight up said to me. And so it led me down this mission to connect, because I knew that couldn't be true, right? And so it led me down this mission to really figure out how we can connect us being ourselves and sharing what's really inspiring and what we really care about, and also being able to do that sustainably and make a living so that we can be devoting ourselves to what we care about day in and day out, rather than having to do that on the side as a side hustle while we work a soul-sucking job to make money. It just didn't make sense to me. And so, yeah, I set off on this journey, and I ended up quitting my corporate job when I realized that I was just living so out of alignment with who I was and what really lights me up. And so I started my first business as an artist, doing paintings and pet portraits and selling my art. And while I was very fulfilled on the creative side of things and the authenticity side of things and just expressing myself, I really struggled on the business side. And I really struggled to make ends meet, to make a living wage through my art. And so that is when I realized how much we need the balanced approach, the practical and the magical. And so, yeah, that is when I did so much exploring to figure out what am I missing here. And I realized that it was the practical business teachings of branding, marketing, and selling, and actually having the skills to exchange what you're offering for money in a way that feels good for everyone. And I think I really initially just wrote all of that off and didn't learn practical business skills because it felt icky. It felt too much like that world where people were saying that you have to hate your job and your everyday life in order to survive. I was just like, none of that. But then I realized, well, if I want to help people really live their purpose and do what lights them up every day and be in a situation where they can be themselves, then I get to be the bridge and figure out how we can do branding, marketing, and selling in a way that's really authentic and also feels magical and fun. It doesn't have to feel super mundane. And so I studied so much of these teachings for years and did my own sifting through of what is actually important, what can we get rid of, and how can I connect this to my spiritual beliefs and the magical manifestation side of things. And so I did a ton of research and a lot of dot connecting, and I that's how I developed my 6-step process. That was what helped me really build a business where I could be creative every day and doing what I love and expressing myself and making a really solid living that supports me and pays the bills and, yeah, has that balanced approach.
So, Indigo, I'm already so impressed. It sounds like you really, like, more than did your homework on this, and your dedication and motivation to create that balanced life really shows through. And I know just in my own journey of trying to do something similar, it's really hard, and everything is hard, right? Because you don't know what you don't know until you
Yeah.
know it. I'm curious, along your whole journey, what do you think have been some of the significant challenges that you faced, and what was your strategy for overcoming them?
Thank you. And thank you for what you said, Kristen. I appreciate those reflections. Okay, so the question was the challenges that I faced and how I overcame them. Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest challenges was trusting myself. And there was two parts to that. One was just rewiring what I learned in childhood and from society, this idea that I have to mold myself in order to get my needs met, both in relationships and also in the workplace. And so undoing all of that and telling a new story. And then also there was the reality where I didn't know these teachings yet. I didn't have the practical business skills. So it was hard to trust myself when I didn't have a clear path towards success, like knowing these are the things that I need to do. And then I know that once I'm applying those and really mastering those skills, then I will be successful. So it was a two-part thing where there was the illusions and then there was the reality. And I got to, yeah, really learn to trust myself and my intuition and also combine that with having skills that people who came before me showed me really worked for them and having a process that I could trust.
I love that because learning to trust our intuition is really deep work. And we say it learning to trust our intuition. We say it in 5 words, and it can sound so easy.
Yeah.
That is really, really deep work. And it takes not just desire to do it like you had, right? You are not going to just accept that the mold that you were giving, that you were going to just fit in it. You were going to make yourself fit in it. You were going to create your own path. And that takes more than trusting your intuition. That takes courage. That takes bravery. And that's also something that society, I think, from when we're really young, instills in us is fear of living outside of the mold. How did
Mm.
you, how did you create a resilient mindset that I assume was necessary during tough times throughout this journey for yourself?
Thank you. Yeah, you bring in a great point that it definitely does take courage, right? Because there is a stepping into the unknown. And I would say baby steps and bit by bit and creating that consistent progress over time is one of the most important ways that it's unfolded for me. I could follow my intuition to go to this park one day and then see what happens, like lower risk things. And then bit by bit, the more that I would take the next edgy baby step and then see that it all worked out, the more I was building evidence that, oh, okay, when I follow my intuition, everything works out. And then when I follow my intuition, actually really magical things happen. And so it starts to like build. I feel like building the evidence, it's that balanced approach that I always bring in. It's like stepping into the unknown and then also building the evidence, that combination.
I feel like I'm like just letting your words sink in for a minute. I have a practical question for you.
Yeah.
I am interested to know where you draw your inspiration and creativity from. And as somebody also who is forging a path forward that I had no training on in school or life until I was on this path, how do you go about staying up to date on not just trends in business and marketing and branding and stuff, but just like what you should be knowing, what you should be sharing and teaching to your clients and your audience?
Yeah, thank you. So will you remind me of the first part of your question? Oh, where do I draw my inspiration from? And then how do I stay up to date? Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like a big part of this process for me has really been that self connection and going deep with the intuition and also just who am I? What do I actually love? And trying new things and noticing what lights me up, what feels draining, and starting to really, yeah, get to know myself and then following those little breadcrumbs. And I also draw a lot of inspiration from nature. I'm a visual artist and musician, and there's a lot of nature inspiration, shapes and sounds through there. And then also in all of this practical business skills reframes that I'm teaching and developing, like my frameworks, I love to use a lot of nature analogies as well. Nature is one of my greatest teachers. Just for example, there are so many messages that we receive in society about hustling and working really hard, and that breeds success. And there's this quote that I love that says something like, nature never rushes and never hurries, yet everything is accomplished.
Hmm.
So
Yes, I
yeah,
love
nature
that.
is such a beautiful example.
It is. It is a beautiful example because right along those lines, I've heard a quote to the effect of the grass doesn't think about growing, it just does. And that ties right back to our intuition and to being in touch with ourselves because ultimately I think that is the greatest intuition. And I love nature too. I love grounding practices. It has been life changing for me during my own spiritual journey. And I love that you share that balance, right? I am big into like energy, everything. And I believe that there is nothing that can be successful long term if there isn't balance. And you do that beautifully. You balance the practical and the creative. That's what you teach. And that's how you help your clients between that balance of their spiritual aspects, their creative aspects, and what's practical. Because we do live in this three-dimensional world, and there are rules and there are systems and there are things that do work. But what works for us, right? Because it's out there, but it doesn't mean that it works necessarily for us. I would love to know because you've shared such great knowledge. What are your future goals and how do you envision yourself achieving them?
Thank you for asking. And yeah, I love what you say, Luisa, about yeah, how there's different strategies, but we have to do what works for us. And that's something that I teach my clients too. Like I set up my frameworks in a way so that they're all also moldable to what resonates and works for the individual, because any strategy will work as long as it aligns with who we are and we can really resonate and believe in it and yeah, execute it. And yeah, to answer your question, goals for the future, I am fully intending to eventually turn my coaching program into a group program. I really love building community. So I feel like, yeah, that's more my future vision. Right now, I work with people one on one, which is beautiful. And I love that too. And it's a great place to be right now. And I also, yeah, I really envision more community building and bringing people together to talk about what inspires them and how they want to change the world. And yeah, just like being a connector, because we all have such amazing gifts and unique takes on things to share. And so when we can put our minds together, I have this song that I made. It's called Unique Keys, and it's about how we each have our unique piece of the puzzle for the healing of the planet and what we need here. And yeah, just like bringing people together so we can each contribute our puzzle piece, and then together as a whole, we have the full picture.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As I think about your journey and what you've been through and how much you've accomplished today, I wonder what it's taken you to cultivate that resilient mindset, especially during tough times where you were questioning what you're doing. Is this the right path for you? How did you keep coming back to uh, staying true to what you believe in and finding the courage to keep going forward?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. Appreciate it, Kristen. Yeah. So the earliest moment for me that felt like a really pivotal moment was when I was 17 years old and I was really depressed, felt really lost, felt like a victim to life. And I just felt like I really needed help. This was my first experience of intuition that was really profound. I followed my intuition one day after school in high school to the local bookstore, and I was just wandering around the store, and I just knew that there was something there for me. And mind you, like at this point in time, I did not have any spiritual beliefs. I don't know, something came over me and I just followed it there. And then I discovered the self-help section of the bookstore, and I ended up feeling attracted to this book by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And this book was like my first massive paradigm shift, where he basically, because I was very logical, like I said, I wasn't spiritual, I was like fully on the extreme of logic and I only believe what I can see. He was a bridge for me, merging, kind of like I'm the bridge between the practical and the magical for my clients. Like for me, he helped to bridge the logic and the spiritual. And he somehow in this book logically explains how powerful we are. Like we choose our thoughts and the story that we tell about our reality, and then that determines the reality we're living in. And so he showed me like we have the power to create the reality we're living in. And I feel like ever since I had that experience of thinking I was a victim to life and then realizing how much I had the power to choose the story I was telling about my life, that really, really stuck with me and has been such an anchor for me, even in the most difficult times. Like you mentioned, of course, I've had so many moments of where I couldn't figure out business yet. And I was like, what am I doing? I quit this job. Am I safe? It's like, was this smart to follow? Am I really following my intuition, or am I just crazy? But yeah, every time I then remember that I get to choose the story, and the story that I choose is then time and time again, like I mentioned earlier, like collecting that evidence. I've collected evidence over time that when we tell a new story, then we create new results. And so that's been an anchor for me. And also a really big other anchor for me in those times is that connection to my life purpose. Like just having a purpose and having a meaning for life and knowing why I'm doing this and why it's important to me, I would say it's been even like the more important piece there, where if I had doubts, but I could connect to why this matters, then it's like nothing else matters, right? Because it's connected to something so much more meaningful than my tiny little human life.
I think what you're describing is like the realization of the power that we each individually have. And I have sometimes called it the God within us, and the part of our divinity that is that we all are, that we all have within us. And that small, tiny little role that we come to play here in this lifetime can be completely life changing once we find it, because I've had that experience. Once
Oh,
I knew what my purpose was, my life has just never been the same, because I know I'm here to help people in a very specific way. And when I live that out every day, it doesn't matter that, society tells me that I should do this or look like this or go here or talk like this or have this job, because within me is everything that I need to be able to have a beautiful existence here. So thank you so much for sharing that. And right along the lines of what you shared, I feel like you talk about your legacy. Like essentially, I feel like what you're talking about is leaving a legacy. And what is that for you? What legacy do you hope to leave behind with your work? And how do you want to be remembered by all the beautiful people that you have and will continue to impact?
Thank you for that question. And yeah, that's beautiful. I love what you said too about how, yeah, you feel that bigger purpose, and that's the thread. Yeah, the legacy that I'd love to leave. I really it's really important to me to leave an impact on this world where I'm helping to lead by example and also helping people to connect with their own trust and their own answers inside of themselves to really live their life how they want to live and find that truth within them, like that purpose and that anchor, like we've talked about, that can just add such a deeper meaning to life and also be able to live that every day and do what lights them up. Yeah, I really would love to leave an impact on this world where I've helped as many people as possible that I can find that spark and commit themselves to it and be able to commit and structure their lives around doing and serving and creating what they want in a way that's really sustainable and can create a beautiful life for both themselves, but then also they're having that ripple effect. And so, yeah, I feel like ripple effect comes to mind. Like I get to support other people and then they ripple out. And it's just like, before we know it, the whole planet is changed and everybody is living on purpose and being themselves.
That's just beautiful. I think we should be so lucky to experience that legacy. Thank you, Indigo.
Thank you.
All right, well, our time has come to an end. Thank you so much, Indigo, for joining us and our listeners as well on Flying Upstream. It's been an incredible evening filled with inspiring stories and valuable insights from our wonderful guest, Indigo Marigold.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I love this conversation. I would love to share with the audience. I have two free resources depending on where you are in this journey. And so if you're in a place where you're more rediscovering yourself and what lights you up and exploring what your purpose is, or maybe you have some clarity on it, but you want to like deepen in that, I have this exercise that really helped me on my journey. It originally comes from Japan and it'll help you gain more clarity on your life purpose. And it's you write down what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. And then you find the overlap between those four things. And it's at indigomarigold.com/purpose. You can download this guide and it's easier to understand when you have the visual for it and it'll walk you through that. And then also, if you're someone who is more clear on your purpose and really just wants that support and to have the more clear path laid out of how you can take this purpose and turn it into an actual business, I have another guide that is that 6-part process that you mentioned, Luisa, that I guide my clients through in my program. And so you can go to indigomarigold.com/path and it'll give you that balanced approach I have where it gives you the structure of the skills to learn and what to get in place. But then there's also a lot of room for customizing it to who you are and what your purpose is and the lifestyle that you want to live. And yeah, it can just help you have clarity on how to create those core foundations for a business that helps you live your purpose full time.
I love that. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. I know that for some of our audience who are entrepreneurs or just someone navigating life's challenges, there's going to be so much that they could take away from that, from what you're offering, and from everything that you and from everything that you have shared today.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to talk with you both.
Guys.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, if you love this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Seriously, subscribe right now. Your support means absolutely the world to us and helps us continue these powerful stories. Thank you for being a part of our community of free spirits.
All right, free spirits, that's all the time we have for today on Flying Upstream.
We hope this episode sparked your curiosity and ignited a desire to explore the extraordinary paths less traveled.
Even when the current feels strong, a whole world of possibilities awaits.
We'll see you next time on the other side of mainstream.
So keep questioning, keep challenging, and most importantly, keep flying upstream.